foundational skill. What is foundational skill is what we call 3 R's, or the functional reading and writing kind of thing. Necessary as they are, that's why they are foundational. But reading a primer and reading reality are not the same thing. So how can learning to read the primer prepare me to learn to read reality? So the second set of skills is what they call transferable skills. This is where curiosity, problem solving, diagnosis, what Professor was saying, information processing, communication, listening, those set of skills. Many a times we call them life skills or social skills or whatever. But they say that after the 3 R's, you need this transferable set of skills. After that, you can add drivery or carpentry or whatever else you want. Now, if we apply it to those who have not been to a formal vocational school, like those women in Saurashtra I was giving example of. Now, they obviously have skills, but there is no system which recognizes them, grades them, or certifies them. And then say, okay, this is the next level. And that's why a lot of those people who are, in front of my office is near Batra Hospital. There is a woman who has been selling for the last 7-8 years kulche chole. Even today, in 10 rupees, she gives 2 kulchas and a bowl of chola. Hundreds of customers she has got. She is not literate. But does she have set of skills? Oh my God, she has. She not only has the skill for chola and kulcha making, she is an enormously competent entrepreneur and a saleswoman. She should be actually invited to teach in IIM Ahmedabad. No, but there is no mechanism by which this can be recognized. Take the case of drivers. Drivers are taught. Somebody gives them a driving license. There are some driving coaching schools and all. But a driver who is driving Maruti 800, after a few years is now driving Audi, skill level has changed or not? Audi has highly computerized machinery. But the driver will get 6,000 rupees a month only because he's driver. There is no mechanism to say that you now grade A driver, grade B driver, grade C driver, grade D driver. We don't have a mechanism to acknowledge, recognize, certify, grade existing skills in a society where 85% of the people are in informal livelihood. We only have a system which prepares people for jobs in those 15%. That's all we have. So this disconnect is, again, not linking learning with life. Not finding a way to acknowledge that life has taught learning, has created learning, which needs to be somehow captured, acknowledged, and then improved, upgraded. I cannot agree more with you about, there you are, about the need to relook at our approach to education, whether it is teacher-centric or learner-centric or learning-centric. But sometime I have noticed that there has been a disconnect, because I came to learning through a very circuitous route. I didn't come to learning from a degree in education at all, as you might have noticed. And when I came to learning, I had never read anything about Piaget or whatever. Child learning and all this business, I had never studied. I was a physics, chemistry, mathematics student. Those subjects were not taught. So I bumped into adult learning. andragogy, etc. And I bumped into it from the point of view of the work I was trying to do. And a lot of work I did in literacy and post-literacy initially, I said, these guys know the world. All they don't know is how to write it or how to read the alphabet. But the meaning of Kam, Samaj, Parivar, Bhook, Amdani, that meaning they knew. So you have to change the pedagogy so that you start from the meaning and give them the alphabets. Not start from the alphabet and subsequently discover the meaning, which was perhaps what school teachers were doing to me when I was a child. So I think in academic circles, because in education faculties in universities you need departments, unfortunately these departments have become silos. Those who teach child psychology have nothing to do with adult learning and vice versa. But if you take the lifelong learning perspective, you start with child. That's all. We have all children, fortunately once. So we have gone through child psychology. I'm ready for adult learning, andrology, etc., etc. But why should there be a silo? Why should it appear as if there are two poles? No, they are one continuum. And what is appropriate learning pedagogy for children, there may be elements of it for adults and vice versa. So in today's world, even in families where, in nuclear families where both parents are going out to work, television or laptop or something else is doing the education of the kids or maids or whatever. So kids are developing meaning. But we don't teach kids with meanings. We still teach them with alphabets. Because this is what Piaget ji said or whatever he said, whoever said that. So I think if we take a lifelong learning perspective, then appropriate pedagogies for different stages of life, whether they are called andragogy or not, can be developed. Teacher training, and I hope you are doing so, must have an element of my behavior speaks within quotes. Because value education, my friend, is not something you do after you've done everything else. At 9 o'clock, I sit with my kids and say, now let me give you some values. Unlikely, you may have tried with your kids. I tried with mine and failed. My parents never did that to me anyway. Values is what they learn by looking at their parents and teachers and colleagues and neighbors and reading about political leaders and social leaders and religious leaders, scoundrels or otherwise, on a daily basis. On a daily basis. Those are the values they imbibe. We tend to forget many a times that what we educate others in values is not what we are supposed to practice. You remember that famous story of Alexander the Great and Raja Porus? यहीं कहीं आए थे उधर वेस्टर्न बॉर्डर पे अलेक्जेंडर साहब, और पोरुस को पकड़ लिया, दरवाजे में अपना दरबार में ले आए हैं, बैठे हुए हैं अलेक्जेंडर साहब, 4-5 लोग उनके चारों तरफ, पोरुस आ रहे हैं, वो अपना हाथ में, उन्होंने पूछा, पोरुस तुम्हारे साथ क्या व्यवहार किया जाए? तो उसने क्या जवाब दिया? वही जो एक राजा दूसरे राजा के साथ करता है. Size does not matter, scale does not matter, authority does not matter. What I expect from you, if I don't do it to you, I am going to have trouble. And that is the problem of value education. Our behavior, if we want our kids, our students to work very hard, we should look like we are doing some hard work too. If we want them to be ethical, we should not change marks because somebody's parents approached us with a gift of fan in the room. Many schools and colleges are getting these gifts, I understand. But that one act can dismiss everything else you do. With our kids, their values are formed by prejudices, values, opinions are formed by what? Age 8, 10, 11, 12. It doesn't mean you can't unlearn them. I unlearned, imagine, no toilet paper in those villages. I unlearned quite a bit. So did all of you. But it is important to integrate what we do, how we do it, with what we want others to learn. Whether they are children or whether they are students or they are colleagues or our neighbors. Unfortunately, in this land of Gandhi, in this country of ours, of Buddha and all those great souls that walk this earth, the disconnect between what we say and what we do has grown. So the crisis is not a moral crisis of society in that sense. Those of us who have got white hair or no hair, we tend to preach that the younger generation has become immoral and unethical and all this kind of thing. No. The crisis is the disconnect between our words and our actions for those who have the potential to be role models for the next generation. Whether we are at home or in university or in political leadership or business leadership, it doesn't matter. Others learn by looking at what we do and how we do it. They don't necessarily learn from what we say. Our words have greater value if they reinforce our actions and the principles by which we take them. So I have a different take on value education. Please.
इला बहन, आप हैं, कुछ कहना चाहेंगे प्लीज? माइक कौन चाहिए?
No, I just had one question and have some indication in terms of an answer. What I learned from you and what you said is that in practical terms and also at the level of thinking, that what is exactly the connect and the disconnect between global and local? Because global has so much come down all the way to the villages and the homes, and then so much in our own minds. So what is that element? That is direct and indirect, content, context, connect between global and local and global. Thank you.
That's a sign of a good teacher. Ilaben provokes me by her questions. She has the answer, but she provokes me with the question. Thank you very much, Ilaben. As I understand it, the dichotomy between local and global is of a more recent origin. If you go back 100 years or more, and when India's freedom struggle was taking place, there were many people in other colonies in Africa and Asia who were learning about India's freedom struggle and getting inspired by it. And in those days there was no internet, no fax, no Facebook or whatever. Our struggle for freedom was local